All right, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Crypto Wolf back again. I know it seems far and few between lately, but I'm taking time out of my busy, life. Come and share with you guys a little bit here, and honestly, it's fun. I enjoy it. So whatever, here we are. So today we're going to be going over a quick look at the charts, but also we're going to be talking about part 2 of Robert Greene's book Mastery. This one specifically dealing with apprenticeship, and it might not sound all that interesting just hearing the word apprenticeship, but trust me when I tell you it's actually some good shit here. So real quick, taking a look at the charts over here on the 1 hour, through bearish in the thumbnail, and that is because generally, overall speaking, I'm feeling a little bearishness. Not 100% on it, but I'm feeling it a little bit, and I'll tell you why here real quick. So zooming out here, 1 hour, you can kind of see been coming down a little bit back to the upside here, almost reminiscent of what we had back here, except we didn't, get that big pump at the end right there. I mean, aside from this, missed that little guy right there. But I'm not too sure what we're going to see after this, but I'm not even necessarily talking like this immediate short term. I'm almost looking at like the, potentially the week ahead maybe. Because, we do kind of have this general upward trend over here on the RSIs and across the top of the momentum waves, which along with the money flow changing over to the green originally kind of had me thinking like, all right, maybe a little bit more to the upside, maybe even another case like that where we get another little big pump to the upside. But looking at everything else, it seems like it's weighed a little bit more heavily on the bearishness, and I shall show you why. Let's just jump here. We'll go to the 6 hour real quick. So just a little recap in case you don't know or it's your first time hanging around here. So this big old yellow box right there is the golden pocket from the bull market itself. We've been hanging around it constantly lately. It took a little dip below. Look at that, right down to that spider line. Gotta love it. Even did it right here too. So that was kind of interesting. Plus, throughout the course of this little period here, we kept repeatedly bouncing off the bottom of the golden pocket as well. Looks like we had a little hit over here on the moving average and been pretty stagnant Friday till now. So not much going on lately at the moment. But over here, Market Cipher B, 6 hour VWAP coming back down, looking like it's going to potentially cross over the zero line to the downside. We'll see what happens there. RSIs are tight together, and it's just kind of sideways action, honestly. I mean, potentially maybe we bounce around the bottom. Again, that's a potentially hard to say right now. Money flow did come up a little bit, but not very steep. As you can see, it was steeper here than it was right here. So again, weekend, low volume, low energy. Too early to tell on that one yet. If the money flow does continue to curve back up, then we could potentially see maybe a run up to the upside here. But popping over to the daily, generally down, except for the fact that we got this big old gigantic gap right there, which tells me it's a lot of weakness to the downside, at least at present. Looks like we did get a VWAP crossover. I mean, it's basically at the zero right now, but enough to get the green dots, so it's on the positive numbers. Money flow, though, it's coming down, but it didn't quite cross into the red yet. But it's, I mean, if we zoom in, it's damn close. Damn close. So a little early to tell on that one. But the DBSI got a couple of 12s on the bottom. We are getting stronger numbers on the top side from a 0 to a -1. So again, not super strong, but just weighed just a little bit more to the bearish side. Come over here to the 2-day. Double 17. Still -4, -3. And again, money flow down, going a little bit sideways. It's not taking a direct run straight into the red, but it's not really bouncing back up. I mean, it's the lowest point that it's been since all the way back here, back around the new year. Oh, hey, look at this straggler. Get rid of you. Jump back down into the hourlies, the 3 hour. You can kind of see Again, a little bit of bearishness, 17 over here on the top. got a little red candle running. Money flow in the red and pointed back down. VWAP basically in a position to continue going down. As far as the RSIs, you know, a lot of sideways action. Looks like just in this move to the upside here, stayed split, sign of weakness. You know, momentum potentially coming back down. So that's another one to the bears. 2 hour. It's almost like each one of these time frames almost flip-flops back and forth. You know, here RSI's upward trajectory, but increasingly split as it goes up. So weaker as it goes up. Momentum already pushing down. VWAP already below. Money flow came back up, pointed down at the moment. So who knows? Maybe we see like one more little dip and then back up to the upside. Maybe we come back, hit either that or hit down here. And then we kind of see where we go from there. I'm not even going to postulate as to what may happen too far ahead here, because kind of in uncharted territory at the moment. I don't think anybody really knows what the fuck's going on. But then over here on the 1 hour, and another thing to keep in mind, down move, up move. You know, is it down move next? Things tend to fluctuate like that, you know. Even if it's you know, this is like, looks like it's sideways, that could be an up. That's a down. That's an up. Do we have another down? Something to keep in mind. Money flow looking like it's going to cross into the red. RSI is potentially turning. Just, you know, we got this wicked crossover between the two, but it immediately went into a big split. Again, over the weekend, super weak. Hard to say if that's going to continue to be the case. You know, if you look on a longer term trend here, you know, the RSIs have been heading up, but the fact that the price is shit basically tells me that it's not a hell of a lot of bullish strength. So it's kind of how I'm feeling on that one. 24, pretty clearly to the downside. A little split, but kind of staying steady. You know, money flow weak in the red, but nevertheless in the red. Down to the 15-minute, you get a little bit more of that, where it actually looks like it's steadily going down. RSI is coming together to the downside, so almost strengthening as it goes down. You know, got a little bit of a trend across the VWAPs right there. We'll see what happens when it comes back up toward the zero, but that's going to be like a tonight, tomorrow morning type situation. At least for me. I don't know where you're at, but you get the point. But that's kind of what's going on with that chart. Everybody generally looking the same, all playing follow the leader. You know, you hop over on ETH. You know, a little bit more movement, probably a little bit better for trading. Honestly, I'd say even stronger to the downside on ETH for the moment. Ripple, even more so on Ripple, hadn't even crossed into the red on the money flow, but I mean, that one definitely looking bearish right there. ADA, similar situation, pretty steep. Up on the 1 hour. Notice we got that little situation going on. So potentially looking for a little bit of turn to the other direction. We shall see. We shall see. But all right, so back to the topic of the day, Robert Greene's Mastery Part 2. Now, whether or not you're interested, hang in here for a second and I'll give you a basic overview. So, Part 2 was Submit to Reality, the Ideal Apprenticeship. So after your formal education, when you enter a new career or acquire new skills, you enter a second phase of learning called the apprenticeship. And if you don't remember from Part 1, or if you didn't watch Part 1, well, go watch that shit. Why are you being lazy? It was discover your calling, you know, finding your life's task. So let's say you figured out what you want to do, and now you need to figure out how to do it. So the goal of apprenticeship is not to make money, get a good position or a title or a diploma, but rather to learn the craft that you want to master. And this has a simple consequence. You must choose a place of work and positions that offer the greatest possibilities for learning. And You want to be discerning in this. And obviously this is going to be a little bit easier for younger guys, younger gals, whatever the case may be. Because especially like if you are still living with your parents and, you know, and a lot of people might hear that and think like, oh, you're a bum, you need to get a job, get your own place, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, if you are living with your parents, dude, take advantage of that shit. Seriously. Like, you have a golden opportunity at that point. Your bills are as low as they are ever going to be. You have an opportunity to do exactly what I'm about to talk about, and it will springboard you ahead of everybody else down the line. So, you know, whether you're just chilling in the basement playing video games, I'm telling you, knock that shit off. You start doing this, it's going to jump you up ahead a couple steps, as opposed to going out and just grinding it out and pushing the hard way, which, believe, I've been there. I know. Wish I would have learned this shit years ago. So here you go. You must think of 3 essential steps in your apprenticeship: deep observation, aka the passive mode; skills acquisition, the practice mode; and experimentation, the active mode. Again, passive mode, practice mode, active mode. And I'll go over each of these here in a little bit more detail. But keep in mind, this can come in different forms. At one place, several positions, a mix of like graduate school practice, or practical experience, can't talk, etc. So step 1, deep observation, the passive mode. In this one, you want to observe the rules and procedures that govern success in this environment and observe the power relationships in the group. So basically, you're just kind of learning how things are working. You're seeing, okay, who do I really want to try to emulate? Who do I want to learn from? How are they moving? How do they interact with people? What are those just little things that when they do their work or they do their job or they do their thing, what makes them seem so good at it? And do not make the mistake of imagining you must get attention, impress people, or prove yourself in this stage. And I think this is something that we often think that we have to do. Say you go get a new job, and you're trying to learn it, and you want to prove yourself immediately, prove that, yeah, you were right in hiring me, or yeah, this guy was right in letting me be an apprentice in this case, or, you know, teaching me how to do something. And you kind of jump into it and you try to do your best, but the fact of the matter is you really don't know enough yet to be doing your best, and you end up fucking something up. And then maybe you make a bad impression, like, oh, okay, you know, it's this kind of hungry kid, and he's giving me that, yeah, I know, or I got it, and he fucks it up. So that's going to kind of set the tone right from the beginning, like, okay, you know, here we go, fucking another know-it-all kid, something like that, blah, blah, blah. Whereas you're almost better off just being quiet and just watching and learning and listening. Because people will definitely respect more that you not only listen, but you listen attentively. You know, they ask you a question, you know the answer, or you repeat back like, okay, so wait, so you're saying do it this way? And people are like, okay, you know what, kid's a good listener, he wants to learn. That's going to mean more than trying to prove you can do it right out of the gate. Step 2, skills acquisition, the practice mode. So as much as possible, reduce the skills to something simple and essential, the core of what you need to get good at, and skills that can be practiced. So break it down to its most basic tenets. You know, if your thing is making YouTube videos, you want to break it down to maybe, okay, I need to learn editing, and I need to learn to speak better, or I want to learn how to, you know, utilize the camera in a better way, maybe do the lighting a little bit better, you know, break it down into individual pieces as opposed to, I just need to be better at making YouTube videos. It remains that we learn best through practice and repetition. I shouldn't have to say anything about that one. That should be pretty obvious at this point. I mean, if you don't know that, I don't know what to tell you. Just repetition, repetition, repetition. The more you do it, the more you analyze the way you did it, the better you're going to get. Pretty straightforward. So first off, it is essential that you begin with one skill that you can master and that serves as a foundation for acquiring other skills. You must avoid at all costs the idea that you can manage learning several skills at a time. I'm not going to lie, I have been horrible at this basically my entire life, my whole life, I've been like the whole jack of all trades, master of none type situation. And this is exactly what Greene is warning about. And it's totally true. Yeah, I can't count how much, probably the majority of my life where I've had my fingers in too many pots. And, you know, whether I'm like, you know, writing and then learning to trade and then, you know, playing hockey and the hell else, working, you know, wearing 5 different hats at work for that matter, learning how to do this, learning how to program, like all this different stuff. And you only have so much time in the day. And the fact of the matter is, if you're not truly focused on one thing, you might be able to do it well, but you're never really going to become a master. You're never going to master that skill because you're constantly spending time that you would be spending on that skill getting mediocre at other things too. Fact of life. Hey, I know, I've done it. The second is the initial stages of learning a skill invariably involve tedium. Yet rather than avoiding this inevitable tedium, you must accept and embrace it. I think that's an important point because, you know, a lot of people, especially nowadays, have short attention spans. And I've known cases like this where, you know, somebody's, oh, I want to do this. I want to, I'll give an example of this kid that I knew that, you know, he wanted to get rich making YouTube videos, and he also wanted to do stock trading, and he didn't want to spend the time that it took to learn it. Because let's face it, anytime you really dig into a subject, it's going to get boring at some point. Like, you're going to have to get into some hard knowledge, and it's not going to be the real quick, exciting, you know, boom, getting cash back out real fast. And, you know, you're not blowing up, getting popular in 1 week. The fact of the matter is you're going to have to get nerdy about it. And the same goes for anything else, whether it be, you know, say your job is engineering. Yeah, at some point you're going to have to start getting into some physics, some metallurgy, things like that. And trust me, I've been there. That shit's boring too. The pain and boredom we experience in the initial stage of learning a skill toughens our minds, much like physical exercise. That's kind of funny. I was actually talking about something like this the other week. The brain is very much a muscle. It's going to atrophy if you don't fucking use it. So you're better off using it. But at the same time, the more you use it, specifically the more you use it on like one specific thing, you are going to remember it a lot better. You're going to know it instinctually after a while. Like, there's plenty of subjects that took me fucking forever to learn, and then finally gets to a point where, like, now, okay, I can actually, like, picture it in my mind, let alone recite it just from memory. And if it's something that you really want to get good at, something you really want to be successful at, then you better fucking know that shit off the top of your head, which means you're going to have to study it, you're going to have to practice it, and you're going to have to do it repeatedly, which means you got to want it, because if you don't want it, you're not going to do the work. It's better to dedicate 2 or 3 hours of intense focus to a skill than to spend 8 hours of diffused concentration on it. So in other words, just spend that couple hours, just completely focus, block everything out, throw the freaking phone over on the other side of the room, do whatever you got to do, turn the TV off, keep the music off, and just focus as much as humanly possible. Because if you're just kind of in and out, you know, farting around, you could do that for 8 hours, and at the end of the day, you know, you leave, you go do something, and come back the next day, damn, I don't know, what the hell how did I do this again? So, and if you want to learn more about this specific aspect of it, if you go look up Andrew Huberman over on YouTube and basically everywhere else, he's a neuroscientist, and he talks about the actual mechanics of how the brain works in these certain like situations. Really, really, really good stuff. And even just learning how the brain works best and how you can learn things better and the different things you could do to make yourself like remember and to learn and form habits is actually really, really helpful, because you'll skip a lot of this wasting time doing things the wrong way or doing things inefficiently. So I highly recommend checking out Huberman. Real pleasure comes from overcoming challenges, feeling confidence in your abilities, gaining fluency in your skills, and experiencing the power this brings. Absolute fact. Like, absolute fact. Especially as men. You know, men are typically kind of driven to do things, to create things. Whereas, you know, women are generally more social creatures and are a little bit more, you know, feelings based and want to help people and want to, you know, make people feel better. Whereas men want to get their hands on something. We want to create. We want to get that dopamine release from successfully completing a goal. And this is where setting yourself, like, you know, even just smaller little goals, smaller little challenges through the course of learning. All right, I figured out how to do this little aspect of it. And when you see it come together and it works and just, shit, fuck yeah, like, got it. Like, especially like, cause I've been doing a lot of like C# programming lately. And when you do something, you're not really quite sure, like, oh crap, how do I do this? And then you finally get it to work, and then you go to run the program and you see that it actually works. And you feel that, you feel the, just the happiness and joy of like, damn, all right, I accomplished it. Like, I managed to get it done. And remember that feeling and keep going for that feeling. So if you keep setting yourself smaller goals along the way, you know, you keep getting that motivation each time. Like, okay, I got this far. What's next? And the same thing with skills. When you get good at something, and you just like, oh, dude, yeah, I did it great that time. So on to step 3, experimentation, the active mode, is where we get into actually the doing. So as you gain skill and confidence, you must make the move to a more active mode of experimentation. The future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. In other words, making yourself more valuable. When we work with our hands and build something, we learn how to sequence our actions and how to organize our thoughts. In taking anything apart in order to fix it, we learn problem-solving skills that have a wider application. Even if it is only as a side activity, you should find a way to work with your hands or to learn more about the inner workings of the machines and pieces of technology around you. I also highly recommend this, and it doesn't even necessarily even have to be like technology and machines, but for example, last weekend I had to fix the freaking pipe underneath the kitchen sink, and that was a great example of this. Like, I started leaking, had a bunch of fucking water in the bottom of the cabinet. I'm like, son of a bitch. So go into there, and rather than just calling, you know, the landlord, hey, got a bunch of water leaking under here, like, I know enough about it that I know that plumbing is really not complicated whatsoever. It's really not. Especially nowadays, they got plastic nuts you could do with your bare hand and everything. But so I go under there, you know, grab the flashlight, clear everything out, look at it, manage to see, okay, I found where it's coming from. Boom. All right, that's goal number 1 accomplished. Figured out where the problem is. So, all right, turn the water off, start taking it apart, figure, okay, well, I got a couple ideas of what might be causing it. And so I try to fix it, try to straighten things out. It's got this little beveled O-ring type thing, beveled washer. Looks a little bit jacked up. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's see if we can straighten it out a little bit. No leak for a little bit, ended up leak came back. So, all right, screw it. I'm just going to replace this little washer, run over to Lowe's, go grab, had to get a whole pack of them. But do that, put it in. A, fixed it. Right there. A, sense of accomplishment. B, now I know how that works. Now I know how it goes together. Now I know where the potential failure point is if I ever happen to see it again. But not only that, I've become more useful. I didn't have to spend a bunch of money hiring a plumber. I didn't have to bother the friggin' the landlord and potentially have him be like, damn, this dude's always calling me. Fuck it, we're raising the rent. All of that stuff. So even just little things like that. And when it does come to things like technology and stuff, obviously you're not going to go around fixing PCBs, just, winging it. There's just not going to happen anymore. But there are a number of things that you still can do here and there. And if you do start getting into things like Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and all that kind of stuff, you can actually do some pretty fun shit. But definitely learning to be skillful in general ways, even beyond just whatever craft you may be trying to master. And let's say it is making YouTube videos or something like that. Well, in the course of that, you're probably going to figure out how to be a half-decent cameraman. You're probably going to figure out, what ways lighting works best and what types and where you should position them and, the best way that settings come out and how to get the different settings on whatever software you're using, whether it's OBS or something like that. And you're going to gain knowledge in a bunch of different skills. And you never know when those skills are going to come in handy, or it comes a time where somebody sees your stuff and says, oh, dude, that's cool. Like, I can use some help. Like, how do I do this? And be like, well, you know, I'll charge you such and such and I'll help you through it. Next thing you know, maybe you're making a little money on the side off of something that you ended up learning that you never thought you were going to use. But moving on from that, strategies for completing the ideal apprenticeship. Number one, value learning over money. I think this one's true because, you know what, the more you learn, the more skills you have. So long as you try to put them into practice, the money will come later. But it will make you a more valuable man. And a more valuable man is always going to be wanted or needed more than a less valuable man. Number two, keep expanding your horizons. Reading books and materials that go beyond what is required is a good starting point. Number three, revert to a feeling of inferiority. When you enter a new environment, your task is to learn and absorb as much as possible. For that purpose, you must try to revert to a childlike feeling of inferiority. You are full of curiosity. If it were me personally, I'd probably reword this one a little bit, just because I wouldn't say that you should go in there feeling inferior. You should go in there just like you said, with the curiosity. You should go in there willing to learn. You should know that these people who are here, who've been doing it for however much longer, they know their shit and you don't, and you want to learn from them. Don't go in thinking that you know it all, you're the shit, I could do anything that anything I put my hands on, I could do just as good as anybody else. Well, bullshit. So I wouldn't necessarily say go in there without confidence, but definitely go in there teachable. Number four, trust the process. Push through the point of frustration. Trust steady practice to get you through lows. And, this comes down to just the tenacity. Just, sometimes it's going to get boring. Sometimes you're going to fail repeatedly. Sometimes you're going to fuck something up. Regardless, just don't fucking quit. That's just what it is. Just don't quit. Find an excuse to keep going. Whatever that excuse may be. I need a paycheck. I got to pay my bills. I want to be more valuable. I want to be high status. I want to get chicks. Whatever excuse you need to use, fucking use it. Number five, move towards resistance and pain. Be your own worst critic. Resist the lure of easing up on your focus and push toward raising your own standards of excellence. Let's bump this down here a little bit. Interesting. Again, move toward resistance and pain. Dude, yeah, you should want that resistance. You should want it to be harder. If you're running on a treadmill, do you want it on the easiest setting, or do you want to bump that resistance up a little bit so you're actually feeling it in your muscles? You go to do some bench presses. Are you only lifting the bar, or are you trying to see how much you can get up? That applies to everything. If you're trying to learn a craft, you're trying to do something, don't just skip the hard parts. Don't take the easy way. It's going to pay off in the end. And real quick, as an example that I learned from somebody recently, they said, if you're playing a video game and it's an open world game and you're lost, you're not quite sure which way to go, what do? You start walking until people start trying to kill you, or characters start trying to kill you. The more resistance you encounter, the harder the opponents get, until you finally come up against that damn near unbeatable boss. You're heading in the right direction. So keep going in the direction where things are trying to kill you. Don't take that one too literally, though. Number six, apprentice yourself in failure. Act on your ideas as early as possible, expose them to the public, and be prepared to fail. Repeated failure will toughen your spirit and show you with absolute clarity how things must be done. Another lesson I just learned from somebody far more successful and richer than I am recently is there's no such thing as failing unless you quit. And there's no such thing as losing, unless you give up. Because the fact of the matter is, failures are just an outstanding lesson, A, on what not to do, and B, usually what you need to do to improve and do it better. So, for God's sakes, do not let any failures or setbacks or any of that stuff ever stop you. If anything, If you fail, go have yourself a drink. Congratulations. You know what? You just leveled yourself up a little bit because you actually learned something, and you probably have a better idea of how to do it the next time, but you just got to make sure that you keep doing it. Number 7, combine the how and the what. Take the extra effort to learn how things are done, not just how they appear, and gain a deeper understanding and feeling for the whole. Again, that curiosity, digging into details, actually really wanting to know, really wanting to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Because, you know, if you just see, oh, okay, well, these people are doing a podcast and they're just setting up a camera on a tripod and, you know, talking shit in front of the camera, or maybe, you know, having people, guests, whoever come on, sit at the table and just talk. There's a little bit more to it to that if you actually want to be good or be successful. And how and the what, or how you got to dig down into it to figure out those specific details. Number 8, that's the last one here. Advance through trial and error. Learn as many skills as possible, but only related to your deepest interests. Find out what works, suits you, and what doesn't. Be comfortable proceeding based on what you like, and when you are ready to settle, ideas and opportunities will present themselves to you. So in other words, back to the original, figuring out what your calling is, what it is you want to do, and when you figure out what you want to do, in the process of trying to master it, you know, start hitting it from every angle. Odds are you're going to find something that you particularly excel at, then you can focus on that, while at the same time, you know, building up those tangential skills that are related to it. But that's it for part 2. We do have a part 3 coming up sometime here soon. Let me see, how long is this? Well, apparently there's a whole bunch of parts. All right, so I guess we're just going chapters. So that was 2. And looking at the charts, got a little bit of a green candle here. We're all the way down on the 4-minute though. Let's see. Yeah, potentially a little bump back up. I'm still kind of leaning a little bit bearishness on the longer ones here though, but we shall see. We shall see. Again, it would be kind of interesting to get, you know, that last little spike up before something happens. But all right, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys are actually maybe contemplating some of this stuff, particularly, you know, trying to better yourself, trying to get better at whatever it is the hell you do. And if that's trading, well, you better start learning about that shit too. There's plenty of sources out there to learn, and even if you want somebody to guide you quickly and easily, there are plenty of people out here you can pay for their courses and memberships and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. It's Mother's Day. If you didn't wish your mom a happy Mother's Day, what the fuck are you doing? Seriously, are you kidding me? Get the fuck off this video. Go call your fucking mom and wish her a happy Mother's Day. But all right, I will see you guys later.